everybody, it's me, Margaret, with an Addi tutorial to put a brim on the bottom of your hat. Now, I know some people have had good luck in actually doing this on the machine. At least that's what I've read. I've never seen anybody do it. There is a video with the Innovations machine, and when I tried to do it that way, it didn't work for me. Then I read somewhere else where they would bring up the bottom loop and hook it on the machine, but it would be every other loop. And again, that didn't work for me either. So this is something I saw on a blog, and it's done by hand. So I'll walk you through that, and forgive my camera experimentation, but my good camera that I'm using right here will not do good close-ups. And it finally dawned on me to get my iPad out and use that. So yeah, bear with me through that. So the first step to making a brim is to start your project with waste yarn. So just take some yarn you don't want. This, let's see, let's measure it. I did about 20 rows in a Red Heart Soft, or actually this is Deborah Norville's Soft, which is very similar to Red Heart Soft. And it looks like I've got about, 2 1/4, 2 1/2 inches here. But remember, because it's stretched out, it's actually going to appear longer than that when we take it off the machine. So this should be about enough for a small brim. I don't know. I'm guessing as we go. Now the best thing to do would be to create a series of stripes. But what if you don't want a hat that's striped? What do you do? Okay, well, I have some of this very thin yarn that I got, I inherited from the little lady that had to go to the nursing home. And I'm going to just add a row right on top of my working yarn. I want to make sure it catches. And I'm going to do, well, what's the problem here? I'm going to do one row. Make sure it goes through that. That was my issue, because it can't reach in the right place. So, whoops, see, I missed that. So, I had much better luck using a thicker yarn once. But I worry that I'm going to stretch out my stitching at that certain point. So I'm trying to do something that is thinner. Okay, I'm adding only one row around. Problem is when you fold up that brim, you've got to be able to attach it evenly across the hat. And visually that's really hard to do, and you don't want to be counting stitches every 5 seconds. So this is just a marker. Alright, scissors. So when I get through with my one row, I'm going to clip my marker yarn and just slide it in there and continue on for as many rows as I want my hat. Now note that I'm going to go very slowly on this first row as we're still dealing with the double yarn. You can really mess yourself up here. See, I'm looking over here and I see a mess up, but it's not that important because it's only my waste yarn that jumped out. Okay, so now I should be good to go to complete the hat. Alright, I've taken my hat off the machine and I've done a gathered closure. If you need instruction on that, you can do a YouTube search, Addi Express, make a hat, and it will take you through the entire process. If you are curious about how I do it, I demonstrated it in the snowman scarf video. The end was gathered the exact same way, but I don't think I do it any differently from anyone else. Just out of curiosity to let you see, we measured it on the machine and it was about 2 1/2 inches or whatever. We made it to 3 1/2 inches when it was stretched out off the machine. So that gives you an idea when you're planning that. Alright, so here we have our waist yarn and we have our little marker yarn right here. That's a knot. I had to knot my yarn together. If you're wondering what that little, it's not a missed stitch. It's just a knot. Okay, so here's what you do. Get your needle, whatever needle you want to work with, and find the blue or your main color where it attached to the waist yarn. Thread your needle. Alright, now the concept here is that we are going to attach right between the two marker yarns. Okay, I don't know if you can see this, and my camera is not really good for up close focus. So, what I'm going to do is take my threaded yarn and I'm going to travel directly up. Why is that important? So you don't get it lopsided. You don't want to twist your brim. You can see that better. 2 sets of blue. You can see one on top, one below. To be consistent, I'm going to always take the one on the top. Alright, I stopped to fiddle with the camera. This is about as good as my camera can get. So I hope you can see this. Alright, so we're going up. If you can tell, this yarn is coming from this center blue line right here. So I'm going to go back down and I'm going to grab that center blue line and I'm going to grab my next upper loop. Okay, and I'll continue on with that process. Attaching my brim. Now notice that I made a mistake in that I did not leave enough yarn, so I'm going to have to stop it to make to attach a little bit more so I can get all the way around. But this is my first time attempting this, so live and learn. Aha, I'm using my iPad. I can get closer. Alright, so maybe you can see what I'm doing now. I take this one from the waist yarn and then I go right here and take the top. See, there's 2 blue ones, a top one and a bottom one within this, and I'm taking the top. And then gently pull it. You don't want to go too tight because you want it to be able to stretch back and forth when the person puts it on their head. Okay, so then I come back down and I grab that one and the top one. And then I'm repeating all the way across until I get to the other side. This one and the top one. Be careful not to split your yarns with your needle. Okay, I'll meet you at the end. Now I've gotten all the way to the end, catching it. And what I'm going to do next, before I disconnect my needle, is I'm going to remove all the waist yarn. Now, I did about 5 rows before I ever put on my main color. And I don't think that's necessary. A lot of people do just 2 rows, but I want to make darn sure it's caught, and that's why I tend to overdo it a little bit. But to undo the waist yarn, I'll probably just clip it, just cut it. Just being careful not to cut your main color. And do it every so often, and that way you can pull it out a lot easier. Now with this, depending upon how tightly it was woven in, and to be sure, hopefully it did not catch and split in between your main color anywhere, you should be able to just pull it out. And just, pull it like that all the way through. Alright, here's the finished edge, fold it up, and all I'm going to do is sew in this last end by hiding it underneath in there somewhere. Of course, I'll start where it came out. I'm looking right here, and this is where the join was, and this seems to be a little opening. I'm going to take advantage of this And I'm going to join just to keep it closed. Not that it'll make any difference because it's technically on the inside of the hat. And now I'm going to secure it by hiding this yarn inside the brim.